Folks, this is an interesting set. It's funny because as we're going into this and we finally were able to purchase some of these, I was like, let me review my notes on this a little bit. This is something I used to sell constantly 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. It was a mainstay in the collecting hobby. They've just disappeared. These are just gone. They've either been melted, they've either been, I don't know what happened to them, but they're gone. This is the first time we were trying to go back. I don't think I've sold these here in a decade. It's been 10 years since I've had sets of silver wartime nickels from the United States Mint. 11 coins, so we're less than $20 a coin. They're brilliant uncirculated, original brilliant uncirculated coins. The vast majority of these obviously were circulated at the time during World War II. They're in this custom holder that you see right here. So these are the United States wartime nickels, silver nickels that you have right there in this custom Capital Plastics holder that you're going to have. I'm going to tell you real quickly, and this is the complete set, by the way. Absolutely, all 11 coins that were made by the Mint are going to be right here. The story behind these to me is absolutely fascinating. So as we roll into World War II, and it obviously becomes a massive conflagration almost immediately because we have Pearl Harbor just obviously right before this. And it becomes just this, obviously now it's a world war. And so we have to go on a wartime footing. And for those of you like me that are my age, your parents lived through this. There was rationing during the war. You could only go get so much of everything. The other thing that we needed specific metals for the war, particularly nickel and copper. Well, the nickel, the Jefferson, nickel that you see right here was made at that time. It was basically nickel and copper. I think it was 75-25, something like that, nickel and then copper. And so they needed to save nickel and they needed to save copper. So they changed the composition of this. So it was, kind of nickel. There was a little copper. There was some copper in here, not quite as much. And then manganese and brass is basically what makes these up, or silver, sorry about that, silver that goes in here. These are 35% silver. So in the war, you have to understand silver was in essence less valuable than nickel. And we still needed coins. We still needed, currency to go through, for people in the United States, even during the wartime. And so we had to make the coins. So by doing this, by changing this composition of the nickels and taking out the nickel and most of the copper that went in here and making it, 35% silver that you're going to have, what we were able to do is save about 1 million pounds, of about 2 million pounds of copper, and about 1 million pounds of nickel. So that's what we were able to save. So it was a big deal. Now, the United States government realized at the end of the war that it would go back to the way where silver was more valuable than nickel. So one of the ways you can look at these, of course, is obviously the dates. You have 1942 to 1945. But to make it even easier, if you go back over here and look at the reverse of the coins, the United States Mint put mint marks, even on the Philadelphia. These are the first coins that actually bore the Philadelphia mint mark, regular issue coins that you see, and it's above the dome of the Capitol right there. And the mint marks are huge, so that they're easier to pick out of change after that to get their silver back is ultimately what it comes down to. And so that's why so many of these were melted down at the time. I mean, these were all obviously used. Now, these were brilliant uncirculated, so these weren't put into circulation. But, these were circulated, and then after the war, they're obviously worth far more than a nickel at that time. Even today, obviously worth considerably more than a nickel, so that they could pull those back out of circulation circulation, and so that makes them literally rarer. And given the fact when silver gets really, really, really crazy, people are still pulling these out and using the wartime nickels and melting them down. I estimate that somewhere around 75–80% of all the wartime nickels that were made have been melted down to get back the silver that the government had to put in there to save the nickel for shell casings. They had a similar deal, if you remember, with the Lincoln cent. In 1943, they're called steel cents, but they weren't made out of steel. Okay, that's because you needed the steel. It was manganese and brass and zinc, and that didn't go as well. It was a funny color, and it didn't weigh as much. Didn't work in vending machines and all that. That was the big thing with this, is it had to work in a vending machine, so it had to be the same weight. So when you changed the composition of this, you had to do an exact composition to make sure that it weighed correctly and was the right size. Obviously, it's the right color that you have with this, but they contain about a third of each one of these coins. Of course, nickels are big, so about a third of each one of these is solid silver as well. They were made at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint and the San Francisco Mint, and they were made from 1942 to 1945, and then we went back to making nickels out of nickel and copper in 1946, when we didn't have that wartime need for copper and nickel, particularly for shell casings, is really what that was. Copper was primarily the shell casings with that. And as a matter of fact, in 1944, 45, and 46, the Lincoln cents from those years tended to be made out of recycled shell casings that bring the shell casings back from Europe and the Pacific and made them into pennies at that time, kind of a early recycling campaign, if you will. So they were only made for these years that you have here, 42, 43, 44, 45. There was only 11 made at the Philadelphia Mint, Denver Mint, and San Francisco Mint. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so they're fantastic. They're incredibly historic. They have a great intrinsic value. They're original, brilliant, uncirculated. You got them in there. But in terms of value, well, I went into a nationally advertised catalog, as I want to do, and I looked at each one. Now remember, we're paying less than $20 a piece. $63.50, $33.95, $65.50. All the S mints are kind of the big ones right here. Here's the S mint, $36.95. Basically, end game right here. $520, $520.30. They have their $520.30. With that, and I even put in here they had the free shipping because it's over $100. If I charge $500 on this set, I'd probably give you free shipping too. And something on the silver, I don't know what else I'd give you, but I'm just going to go ahead and save you $300. Who knows what it is, but we're just going to be over $300. It's literally 2 for 1 plus saving another 100 on top of that, 125 on top of that. So fantastic deal. And that's the other thing, to go back to my original thought on this, is the fact that I've not sold these in 10 years. These used to be relatively common. But what happened is we've had silver, go to all-time highs twice. And each time it does that, these get melted down. Now, the brilliant uncirculated coins tend to stick around a little bit because they have so much more numismatic value. But all the lower-end coins kind of disappear. Also, when you buy these sets, you have to buy from somebody that you trust on these. Because there is a way, a lot of people refinish these nickels and kind of make them look uncirculated. So you have to be very careful. You got to buy from a trusted source. Of course, that's us right here. I've been here selling coins on CSN for 25 years. So you can, you have that guarantee, you have that security, you have that confidence when you buy from us that you're getting the real deal. It's accurately graded and accurately priced as well. So here's the bottom line. You have this incredibly historic set of coins made by the United States Mint, specifically to address the wartime needs of the nation from 1942 to 1945. It's an 11-coin set. You get a complete set. They're 35% silver. They're an original, brilliant, uncirculated condition. And at $199, less than $20 a coin, you get every single one. And from the national retail catalog, save over $300 on a set. Now, the problem is even though I've got a fair number of sets, they are very limited. Like I said, I haven't sold them in almost 10 years. I've got about 8 dozen sets to go around. You need to pick up the phone, put these in your collection today.